Hello and welcome in and welcome to my project for this stamp camp. My name is Helen Jennings. You'll find me under Love-a-Duckie.co.uk if you're looking for me anywhere. So do head over and check out other inspirations and things. But let us think about our project that we're going to be making for this stamp camp. I've got my cup of tea on hand. I'll be back for cups of tea, for afternoon tea during our lives coming up for stamp camp weekend. But for now, let us head on down to my workspace and let's have a little look at the project we're going to be making from your tutorial bundle. So here it is. We have our little birdhouse, cute little bird, flowers. I'm hoping you have the best day ever with a little birdie tucked inside just there. So with your pieces of card that you will have received in your make and take, you will have a pecan pie card base, so your standard sized card base that you're going to score down the halfway point. So whether that is metric at 10.5 or imperial at 4¼ you're going to have scored it in half to make your card base, and then you'll have this mat of the Summer Splash, the new Summer Splash in colour, that is going to be to stick on the front. So I've already done that. So that's your first point, is to make your card base and to stick this mat on the front. So I've already done that bit. Then you are going to have a piece of DSP, and this measures 13.9 by 9½ if you're metric, and 5 inches by 3¾ if you are imperial. And what we're going to do is we're going to rough this up a bit. We're going to distress it. Now, you can use your paper snips and just get your paper snips, open them up and run them along this edge. Don't worry if you get little tears and things, because it is all about distressing it. Now, it may be that somewhere in your crafty stash you may have a little tool a bit like this that has all these little blades, and if you've got one of these, then you're just going to run this down the edge. But whichever way you do it, whether you do it with your paper snips or with a distressing tool like this, we are going to rough up the edges of this DSP. So the pattern is this one with sort of like this wood grainy effect on it. On the back is this brown, darker brown wood grainy effect. So let's just go round all 4 sides. A bit of a big tear, but that's okay. We're not going to worry about that. It's just slightly more distressed than we'd anticipated. So let's just run our fingers around there and loosen off some of the fluffy bits that are sitting on the top there. So we've roughed all around the outside of our paper. Now I'm going to take a blending brush and some pecan pie ink and just going to bring my blending brush around the edge of this, and you can see that it really picks up the ink on this sort of roughed up edge. That really sort of picks it up quite darkly on that fluffy edge, but we're bringing the ink in a bit further as well, giving it sort of almost a tea stained, almost type distressed look to it. Bring that around here. So we've come all the way round with our blending brush and blended all around the edges of this distressed mat. I'm now going to take the splatter stamp. So let me just move some of these blocks. I've got some stamps already on blocks, some waiting to go on blocks. But this splatter stamp just here is the stamp I'm going to use now. And I'm just going to ink that up and add some splatters onto the background of this paper, so giving it a bit more of a distressed, beaten up type look. So just adding interest to that, adding extra interest to that piece of DSP. So you can see how you've got all these splatters, you've got your sponging around the edge, and you already had your sort of wood grainy type effect on that background. So eventually that is going to come across here and come on to this card front like that. But I'm going to hang on for a minute because I've got other things to do first before we stick it down. Just move that pecan pie to one side. I'm going to bring in some of the petal pink ribbon that's part of that combo pack. It makes up this fabulous mega suite, of which we've only used the Country Birdhouses bundle. There is of course two bundles in the whole suite, and just because we've used the Birdhouses one doesn't by any means mean that the other bundle in the suite isn't utterly beautiful and well worth adding to your stash. I know I for one will be using it for a class a bit later on in the year so that it doesn't feel neglected. So there we are, some of that ribbon going across there. So now we've got that ribbon in place, we can now stick this down to our card front. I've got my little glue dispenser here. It is multi-purpose, Tombow multi-purpose glue in here. I've just transferred it to this little bottle because the nozzle on here is fabulous for little die cuts and things. Just helps make your glue go a little bit further as well. So right, let's stick this down in place on the front of our card, and we're not going to worry that there's sort of sticky up bits around the edges because that's the sort of distressed look we are after. Let's take away some of those bits around the edge. There we go. So there we have our sort of basic card base, but now we want something to go on our card base. So we're going to bring in now, in your cutting instructions you will have had two pieces of basic white. The smaller one is going to form the insert that's going to go inside the card. The bigger one we are now going to use for all of our stamping. Let me just find my stamping scrub. Let's get this, clean this stamp up because I'm going to want the block in a minute. So onto this piece of basic white, we're going to need to stamp a few things. First of all, we're going to want a birdhouse. So this birdhouse image. Stamp that on there like that. I'm actually going to want just this piece just here, so just this bottom piece of the stamp just here. Let's just take some memento, ink that up. And I'm just going to take that right on this top edge just here. So we have our whole bird house, we have our little bit of a birdhouse. Bring in this block and let's ink up our little bird. And then we're going to take this little cluster of flowers just here, and we're going to stamp one of those as well. And the other thing we're going to want to stamp onto here is the sentiment, and this is the one that says, hoping you have the best day ever. And I'm going to take some Pink and Pie ink and ink that up. Stamp that along the top there. There we have our sentiment. So these are the things you're going to want on your large piece of basic white. You're going to want a birdhouse. You're going to want an extra bottom piece of the birdhouse. You're going to need the cluster of flowers, and you're going to need a little bird. All of those in memento, and then in Pecan Pie you're going to want to stamp that sentiment. So that's all our stamping on there. And the next thing we need to do is we need to take, and you can use either of the little flowers, but I've used this little one just here with the black centre. So I've popped that onto this little block. Let me just have a quick slurp of tea. So pop that onto this little block. And now I'm going to stamp flowers onto this main body piece of the little birdhouse. Now, this piece here is going to be covered up by this piece here, and this centerpiece just here, we're going to cut out that hole in there. So it doesn't matter if your flowers overlap that or overlap here, but we're going to try and avoid any overlapping at the top here. So let me, that my head doesn't get in the way, let's just stamp some flowers at the top here. And if it's going to overlap anywhere, we want it to be over that center circle and not put one in here that's going to overlap there a little bit. Again, that will overlap a little bit just there. Just going to take a little bit of scrap card actually and lay it up against here and pop another bit in there. It's just going to depend where your flowers, you're never going to manage to do exactly the same 2 times running, but so you might want some extra little bits in there. So there we go. We've got flowers all over our little birdhouse just there. The other stamp I'm going to take is this little odd looking little stamp at the top here, this sort of wood grain one just up there. I'm going to swing this round and concentrate on our extra bit of birdhouse at the top there. I'm going to stamp some of that wood grain onto there. Right, I think I can put my memento away now. Got all our stamping. Now we need to do some colouring. So let's start with these little flowers. So I've used Daffodil Delight. This is the dark Daffodil Delight to give some centres to these flowers. Just do a few and then we'll come in again in a minute. Do some extra bits. So now I've got the dark Pretty in Pink. And let's bring some of that in as well. And then we're going to take some light Pretty in Pink, blend that all in with the light. Bringing that all the way around. There we go. So let's come back in. Just done a few at a time because ideally you want your ink with the stamping blend, you want your ink to still be relatively wet for it to blend nicely. I'm going to worry about colouring the inside bit of that because we're going to cut that off anyway. Again, we're going in with the dark Pretty in Pink. And then finally the light Pretty in Pink. The bottom of this one. And we come. Right, there we are. There's some little flowers there. Now for the background to the birdhouse, I've again used the new Summer Splash. That will tie in with that mat that we put onto our card base. This is the dark. Bring it round this outside edge just here. Ooh, got a flower there that I've not added. My light petal pink to We'll do that in just a second. So these colours aren't necessarily found in the papers. Slightly brighter than those that are found in the papers. Let's come in with the light summer splash. And come in all round these little flowers. Obviously this is the most fiddly bit. Cuddling. You can cuddle them if you want to, but colouring in these little bits around here. And I'm sure that you can take much more time and be much more precise and careful than I'm being at the moment. On the outside of there. It's pretty and pink and summer splash. These newing colours are just so beautiful. They really do play very nicely with each other. You can of course make flowers whatever colour you'd like them to be. As I said, you could use with the little flowers, or in fact any little stamps that you've got, to add a pattern to the front here. I'm sure any bird would be delighted to live in such a colourful floral birdhouse. Who says they have to be boring? And I wanted to use the stamps as well to make the best use of the stamps. You can create fabulous birdhouses with the dies. But I wanted to concentrate on the stamps. So there we have that main body piece of the birdhouse. I've got dark petal pink here. I'm going to use that to colour in this sort of scallop section in this first straight section here. And again, let's colour that piece in. Now I'm going to bring in some pecan pie. So I've got both my dark and my light pecan pie. To some dark. To the edges of this piece. And then come in with a bit of light in the centre, blending that around. Of course, as always with stamping blends, make sure you're not colouring direct onto your best oak table. You just need to make sure you've got something, scrap paper or a mat of some sort underneath, because it will soak through the card and will occasionally mark whatever you happen to have underneath. To bring in the dark pecan pie and just mark that little stand that's just there underneath the hole. It looks a bit odd at the moment, but we're going to come to die cutting in a minute. We're not going to bother colouring in this bit because we're going to colour in this bit. And the reason that I did it as a separate piece is just so the fact that it is going to come over the edges and all those sorts of things. You could stamp direct on there, but it makes it just easier to have a separate piece to add in, because it doesn't matter if you go a bit over the edge then with either the flowers or the wood grainy bit, and it gives it just a little bit more dimension, sticks it out a little bit more. So let's come in with the light pink and pie. Just going to this is the rush end, just going all over with that, and then I'll swap back to the bullet point just to add in a bit more sort of blending around those edges. Where those wood grains are. Right, so we've got our base, we've got the majority of our birdhouse. Now we have a little cluster of flowers. So let's come in, and again let's give that a Daffodil Delight centre. And then again let's come in with Petal Pink. We'll just bring that Petal Pink out from that centrepiece a little bit. And then bring in the light Petal Pink to extend that colour out and to blend it together. Now also in my little set of colours that I've pulled out here, I've got this is a light Calypso Coral. Use that for this other flower just here, and a dark Granny Apple Green for the leaves. And we'll just add some Granny Apple Green to that little bobbly sort of foliage piece there. So last but by no means least, we have our little bird just here. So I'm taking dark Petal Pink again, and I'm going to come in on this breast piece, come in over the head, going to add a bit Petal Pink on the tail feathers and a bit on the wing. And I'm going to take a dark crumb cake, and let's sort of have the ends of these wings. Across the top of his head there. And then I'm going to take the light, oh no, that's not what I want, light crumb cake, and sort of bring this all together. Back in with this petal pink down here, around the top here. And then I'm going to take the Calypso coral again and just use that for feet and wings. So there we have all of those pieces coloured. And before we put all of those colours away, I'm just going to hang on to the ones I've used for the bird. Put the others back in my little case just here. Let's find that. What have I done with my card base? Here it is. Let me just find this little piece of basic white here that is going to be our insert. So that's in metric 13.9 by 9.5, in imperial 5 inches by 3 3/4. Let's just stamp a little bird down in that bottom left hand corner, and let's colour him in similarly. Him, she, it, they, in this, just to sort of match that bird on the front. There's some petal pink. Let's bring in a little bit of the darker crumb cake. Bring in the lighter crumb cake. Blend that all together. I'm going to come back in with the petal pink and just add a slightly darker shading around his tummy and head. So there we have our little bird. Oh, beak. Calypso coral, beak and feet. There he is. Let's pop some glue on him and safely tuck him inside. And let's bring in our coloured pieces again. And let's find our dies. So the dies we're going to need are this birdhouse one to cut out the outside of the birdhouse. And let me just get rid of that centerpiece out there. Come on out. And we're also going to cut out the center like that. And we're going to need a bird, and we're going to need a little cluster of flowers. Quick slurp of tea. Looking around because somewhere I've got some little bits of tape that we can use to hold this down. Let's hold that little circle in place in there. A little bird. Very cute little bird. And then I'm going to get our flowers in as well. I think we are. You never want to overlap your dies, because if you do, you may well find that they cut into each other, which is obviously not ideal. So those are the pieces we're going to die cut: the main birdhouse, the circle out of the middle, the flowers and the bird. We're going to actually fussy cut this one because we don't want a border on it. So just cut these out. It goes through my big machine. Let's take a little hole out of the middle. Let's remove the birdhouse. There it is, in all its flowery glory. Here's our little cluster of flowers. A little bird. Let's take our paper snips and let's just cut out this. I might just do is take my pecan pie and just run it round this inner edge, so that if there is any poking out, then it is already going to be the right colour and is not going to show up as starkly white. You could add this with dimensionals if you want to, but I'm actually going to just put some of the multi-purpose adhesive onto it. To pop that on the top there, as I say, it will give it a little bit of extra depth just by being extra tall as it was. I'm just going to take my dark summer splash and run that round the inside of this circle, just again so that that isn't just white. There we have our little birdhouse. Before I stick it in place, I'm just going to take it and rest it on this bit of ribbon just here, so that it's overlapping the ribbon slightly, sitting on the ribbon like that. And then I'm going to take my pencil and I'm going to draw a circle where that hole is. And then I'm going to take my dark pecan pie and I want it to go slightly outside of that pencil circle, so that then when I sit this back over here, I've got that nice sort of shadowy effect looking into the bird box. But it's not the same pattern as the paper, so it does look like you've got a back to your bird box. So again, I'm just going to use some multi-purpose adhesive on this. You could use dimensionals, but I'm going to use dimensionals to pop up my bird and my flowers. Let's pop that on there like that. So there's our pretty birdhouse, our pretty flowery birdhouse. Let's bring in our little bird now. We're going to have him, her, they, them, sitting. I know I've got some little mini dimensionals out ready somewhere. Let's just add these. We might be able to hear my dog barking. My daughter-in-law's just walked in, so she's being greeted. So here is our little bird. And we'll have him sitting just here. And then we've got our little flowery bits just here. Let's some mini dimensionals to the back of those as well. Have these coming down here on the end of our little ledge. The last thing we've got to do is we're going to cut out our sentiment. So I'm going to start by taking this best day ever, cutting that as a straight strip. And that will come down here. And then we'll cut out this little bit here. Let's get rid of that excess bit of white card. And let's take our paper snips and just sort of follow the outline of this sentiment. Round we come. Round the bottom. Up we come. Round here. This is something I never used to do very often at all, but it's amazing these days how often I do cut out my sentiments. And now we have this little bit of pecan pie here. We're going to, if you were wondering what that's for, we're going to stick this basic white sentiment to our pecan pie to give it room so that we can again cut round it. And this is just going to give a bit of a shadow so that it pops off of that background paper, otherwise it would get a little bit lost, and we don't want that. I'm trying to keep the border fairly standard all the way round, but the chances are you will see any discrepancies or places where it's a little bit out. They will show up to you far more than they'll show up to anybody that you gave the card to. We're always very self-critical. Here we are. Give that a bit of a curl. I think I put this birdhouse slightly higher than my one on the other card. Actually going to pop some dimensionals on the back of here so that this one is raised up. Another one just there. That's how it's coming across here. Hoping you have the, then, ooh, excuse me, I don't need you, thank you. Fingers and thumbs now. Just add a little squiggle of glue along there. Oh, let's not stick it on upside down. Let's have our best day ever. Just coming in on that bottom, just there. So the final thing I have added, because we want to have a bit of everything that it's possible to have. So I've taken some of the basic grey pearls. So there is a large and a small basic grey one there. And we'll take another small basic grey one and just pop it up there. So there we have a beautiful flowery birdhouse on this distressed paper in the background that we've roughed up around the edges. Got a bit of the ribbon in there, you've got your pearls in there, and then inside we've got this little bird just waiting for us to add some sentiment in there as well. So hoping you have the best day ever. That could be a birthday, it could be a wedding day. When it comes to my live video that I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be showing you how to do a second bird in reverse. So it may be that if when you've got the hang of that, you might want to put a second little bird in reverse on here somewhere. That would be perfect then for wedding card or any of those sorts of things. You could perhaps even have a little veil on one of them, who knows, no end. So here is the one that I did originally, and you can see I put my ribbon a bit lower on that one. So yeah, there's a word to the wise: bring your ribbon down a little bit further than I did, and then you'll have more room at the top for your sentiment. But there's a couple of little flowery bird houses for you to have a go at. So concentrating on the stamps, obviously we've done die cutting of our images, but we've used those stamped images from your Country Birdhouse stamp to create some really pretty little birdhouses. So I hope that you have enjoyed that. It's quite dark now while I've been creating with you. The sun has gone down. Let me just turn that one off. Yeah, the sun has gone down and it's now quite dark here. So enjoy the rest of all your tutorials for your stamp camp. I hope you enjoy making all of the projects and that you'll enjoy the live videos too. So I will see you for mine over the stamp camp weekend. So looking forward to seeing you then.